You're watching Bloomberg Law. I'm Pacchia. It may be the middle of the offseason, but things have been anything but quiet for the National Football League in recent weeks. Labor disputes with referees, players suing the league for a range of issues from collusion to concussions, coaches and players penalized for participating in bounty programs. It's all rather difficult to follow, but here to sort it all out, we're joined by Steve Olenick, attorney for professional athletes, joining us via Skype from Dallas. Welcome, Steve. Thanks for coming back on. So, busy days to be doing legal work for the NFL, I suppose. Let's start with the most recent developments. The arbitrator has decided in favor of Commissioner Goodell's decision to penalize participants in the New Orleans Saints bounty program. That, of course, is where players were incentivized to injure opposing players on the field. The NFL Players Association is appealing the decision. I got to ask you, Steve, is this going to go anywhere, or is this just dead on arrival?
No, I think it's deadly. I mean, right now it's a mess, as you can see, especially with the NFL. You know, the lawsuits are just popping up left and right, coupled with the fact, I don't know if you saw, but even the concussion matter, they're consolidating the cases, and it's being filed in the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. To answer your question, I don't think it's going to go anywhere at all. I think it's pretty cut and dry in terms of the commissioner does have the right to lay down the verdict here. I think we're just going to have to move on.
All right, well, let's move on to the collusion lawsuits. The NFL Players Association is claiming that owners and the league conspired to impose a secret salary cap in 2010. 2010 was a year there was supposed to be no cap in place. This supposedly led to players getting paid less than they would have. What are the prospects for the NFLPA to win this suit?
It's going to be tough. I mean, it's a great question. I mean, I think that, you know, especially with the collective bargaining agreement being signed already, in which there was language in there that basically prohibited this, the NFL obviously coming back saying that this is a moot point, coupled with the fact that, you know, I'm sure that the Cowboys and the Redskins is what you're alluding to, where they actually went over and were fined all this money right now for basically going over this quote-unquote uncapped number.
Right.
It's going to be tough. I mean, once again, I think it's probably going to get thrown out. I mean, you're just going to have to move on with some of this stuff.
Right. Of course, you bring up an interesting point. This all stems from the NFL's recent decision to strip the Redskins and Cowboys of salary cap space for 2012 and 2013 for overspending in 2010. Again, 2010 was supposed to be an uncapped year. Is it just me, or is there some sort of disagreement over the definition of uncapped? I mean, why all this fighting over whether or not 2010 was supposed to be capped or not?
Right. Well, exactly. I mean, obviously it was supposed to be uncapped, but then obviously some of the richer teams, they obviously go into spending, and, you know, the Cowboys and the Redskins are two of the most profitable teams, and they're actually look at the value of the team per se. Now what you're going to start to see is that the resources that the Redskins have to sign some of the talent isn't going to be there because they're going to go above and beyond the salary cap. In terms of the uncapped definition, well, uncapped means uncapped to me, so
right.
It means it's a free market system where you can overspend all you want.
Right. It's amazing because the actions that led up to these penalties and the penalties themselves are going to impact who takes the field for these football teams and for next season and the season after that. It's really this is awfully important stuff. Steve, I got to ask you, does this suit or this fighting have any effect on the collective bargaining agreement? We really just got past a nasty work stoppage. Is that agreement, is that piece going to be in any way upset by what's taking place today?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, you just allude to it. I'm sure there's language in there that basically says that anything in the past is in the past. So you're bringing a claim from past results, whereby it's almost a moot point. I mean, it gets thrown out. So yeah, I mean, you have to look at this stuff, but when you really look at it on its face, do they really have merit, or are they just trying to get something out of it? Mm-hmm. I tend to think that right now, the way that everything's been put together and kind of thrown out there and conveyed, especially in the press and whatnot, you're starting to see that the stuff's getting obviously in favor of the NFL, or it's getting thrown out.
Right. Well, if this isn't about winning the suit or the challenge at the end of the day, what do you think the teams are looking for?
Well, I mean, I think the teams are looking for leverage. I mean, no one wants to be penalized for something that they quote unquote weren't allowed or didn't think was going to be an issue. So now, when you start to look at building your team, signing some of your key free agents, I think now you're going to come back and say, well, wait a second, we overspent because we were allowed to, but now being penalized because we actually did something that we were supposed to be allowed to be able to do. So I think it's going to put some of these teams, especially like the Redskins, because they're fined so heavily, at a huge disadvantage to put some of their young talent, sign their long-term talent, obviously meet within the boundaries of the salary cap that's going to be set this year, which is roughly about $120.6 million.
Messy stuff. And now the league, on top of everything, is fighting with the refs. They're threatening to basically bring in scabs. This whole situation went to mediation. But Steve, is this going to end up in court eventually?
Once again, yeah, great question. Possibly it could, but just like anything else, what do you think the referees want? They want money. So when you factor that into it, coupled with the fact that they want a greater pension, yeah, it may so go into court, or at least something be filed so that we can obviously increase the leverage and hopefully get more money for these guys.
Busy days to be working with and around the National Football League, to be sure. Steve, I want to thank you so much for your time today, sir, and for helping us sort this all out.
Thanks a lot, Lee.
That's sports attorney Steve Olenick. If you'd like to learn more about the cases and issues we just discussed, be sure to check out our offerings on BloombergLaw.com and also on the Bloomberg Terminal. You can see more of our videos on YouTube and follow our updates, of course, on Twitter. I'm Pacchia. Thanks for watching.